All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about something every single CPA firm knows in its bones, the absolute, soul-crushing grind of tax season. But today, we're going to explore a strategy that is seriously changing the game, using offshore support to finally break that cycle of burnout.
So let's start with the big question, right? Is tax season burnout just a fact of life? I mean, we all know the drill, the crazy hours, the mounting stress, just that feeling of trying to keep your head above water. For so long, it felt like the answer was just, yep, that's the job. But what if it doesn't have to be? Because here's the thing, burnout isn't just a personal problem your team has to get over. No way. It's a huge business risk. You're looking at higher staff turnover. You're good people walking out the door. You've got declining morale among your senior staff, the ones you rely on most. The risk of costly errors goes way up. And maybe the biggest one, it absolutely kills your ability to grow. That's not just a bad season. That's something that chips away at the very foundation of your firm.
Okay, so how do we fix this? Let's talk about a much smarter way to think about your team's capacity. And this is the most important part, right here on the screen. This is all about adding backup, not replacing the amazing team you already have.
So what are we actually talking about? Offshore support. Let's define it. It's simply adding a reliable, trained, and, this is key, scalable backup crew to your onshore team. Their whole job is to help you manage those insane workload surges during your busiest times. Think of them as reinforcements that empower your people, not replace them.
So what kind of work are we talking about shifting? Well, it's the high-volume, prep-heavy stuff. You know, the initial tax return preparation, putting together all those supporting schedules and work papers, the bookkeeping, the compliance docs. When you strategically move this work, you free up your onshore team to do what they do best: the final review, the high-level strategic planning, and of course, talking to your clients. Now, you've probably noticed this model is getting more and more popular, but that brings up a really good question. Why has India, specifically, become such a go-to trusted partner for U.S. firms? Well, it's definitely not by accident. And this really explains why. This whole partnership is built on a really deep foundation of shared knowledge. Professionals in India are often highly trained in preparing U.S. individual and business tax returns. They get federal and state compliance, they know IRS documentation standards, and they're already pros at using the exact same accounting software your firm is using. That alignment just makes the whole onboarding process so much faster. Okay, let's get real and tackle one of the biggest fears I hear from firms: the fear of losing control, of things just turning into chaos. We need to talk about the reality of offshoring because it's actually about creating more structure, not less. This comparison is just perfect. The common fear is that it's going to require constant handholding, but the reality? You get a much clearer separation between preparation and review. The fear is that it'll introduce chaos. The reality is you get more predictable turnaround times. Firms worry it just creates more work, but what really happens is it massively reduces that last-minute scramble. And my favorite one, instead of diluting your senior expertise, it unleashes it, letting your top people focus on what really matters. But here it is, the big one, the objection I hear from almost every firm partner. Okay, but let's be honest, an offshore team just won't be able to match our quality standards. You know, it's funny because the data actually shows that the opposite can happen. In fact, quality often improves. And why? It's pretty simple, actually. When workloads are balanced, your onshore team isn't just rushing to get things out the door. They have the time and, frankly, the mental energy to do more thorough, high-quality reviews. Burnout isn't clouding their judgment anymore. Now, here's a crucial point. This is not some magic wand you can just wave on April 1st and expect everything to be perfect. Real success here comes from planning, and that's our next section. The secret is that you have to prepare for peak season long before it actually hits. So here's a super practical checklist for you. First up, security. You've got to nail down your IRS disclosures and all the data access rules. Second, workflows. Document exactly who handles each step of the process. Third, documentation. Get your templates and checklists standardized and ready to go. And finally, communication. You have to set up a rhythm of regular check-ins. Get this stuff right, and you are building a system for success. Because when you have all those pieces in place, the whole dynamic shifts. You stop being reactive, just constantly putting out fires, and your support system becomes truly reliable. You're not just surviving anymore, you're actually taking back control of your entire tax season.
Okay, so we've covered how this helps your firm internally, but let's talk about the ultimate payoff, the client experience. Because even if your clients never know you have an offshore team, trust me, they will absolutely notice the difference.
And what does that look like from their perspective? It's beautiful. Deadlines are suddenly met way more consistently. They get fewer of those frantic last-minute requests for an extension. Your team now has the bandwidth for more strategic tax planning calls. And overall, your communication is just faster and better. That is how you build incredible client trust and loyalty. And let's face it, in today's market, that kind of reliability isn't just a nice little bonus. It becomes your key differentiator. It's what makes a client choose you and stay with you. So as we wrap this up, let's think bigger for a second. This is really about making your entire firm more resilient. It's about building a sustainable, long-term strategy, not just finding a quick fix for one busy season. The takeaway here is pretty simple. You can stop letting tax season run your firm. When it's planned out the right way, this kind of collaboration gives you a practical, powerful way to manage those workload spikes and protect your team from burnout. So the real question isn't whether you should think about this. The real question is, what are you and your team going to do with all the time you get back?